welcome back, or welcome if you're new. My name is Kyan, and this is Kyan is Booked. We are continuing along with our Rina Kent backlist read in order journey. Basically, I went to Rina Kent's website and I looked at like the recommended reading order, and I've been vlogging my way through her backlist, and we've hit the Deception Trilogy. Now, I'll have it linked in the description box below, like the list that I'm following. But if you don't know, I've got this trilogy, the Monster Trilogy, and then I'm at the Legacy of the Gods. So y'all, we're literally 6 books away from being at the series that everybody's talking about, that takes like the huge, everybody's like hyped about and like just can't wait to discuss and all that kind of stuff. Like, I'm almost there. Like, I can almost pick up God of Malice and know exactly what's going on. So very, very excited about that. I will link the beginning in the description box as well. Like, I have an entire playlist. I literally started at book 0 of the Royal Elite series, and I've been reading my way through since, and I have had a time, y'all, a time. And it's been actually kind of a fun time, and I'm really enjoying myself. But today we're here to kind of introduce the Deception Trilogy, like I said. I'm 67% of the way through Vow of Deception, and this is a special edition from the Last Chapter Bookshop, and I'm kind of bummed because like I only have the first one, but how cool is that? Like, I love the attention to detail. I need to see if I can find one of his chapters to see if it's any different. So it's the same. Okay, so this one is following Adrian Volkov, and Volkov. I'm probably saying that incorrectly, but it's following Adrian, and he's part of the Russian mafia. And this ties back to Throne of Power, like the Throne duet. So it's the same Pakan and group that like Ray was a part of, and Anastasia's family was in, and all of that. So all of the reading beforehand has led up here to, and Adrian was mentioned in those books, and his wife was mentioned as well, but like now we're getting like their trilogy and like the nitty gritty of it, right? So you're probably wondering, okay, but like why are we getting his trilogy, and why are we talking about his wife if like he's already married? Like, what about his happily ever after? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is really honestly where my confusion comes from. Okay, so let me set the scene for you. We're following Winter, and Winter is homeless, and she's on the streets of the city, and it is wintertime, no pun intended, and so it's freezing outside, and she's like layered up, and like all this stuff is going on, and she is an alcoholic, because in her mind, like the more alcohol she drinks, the more like it numbs out how cold she is, and we're not even gonna get into that. Anyways, so she's an alcoholic, and she's living on the streets, and she's starving, and she walks into the road without paying attention, and she's about to get run over when he saves her life. We don't know who he is at this point. Like, he's just some like random dude that's like really attractive that like offered his handkerchief and saved her life, right? And then they part ways. Later on, she tries to go back to the homeless shelter that she normally goes to, but one of her friends pulls her to the side and says, hey, like the guy who's in charge of the homeless shelter, like he's dead, and they have your prints inside of his office or whatever, and like you're a person of interest. So now she's like, great, I can't go back to this place, blah, 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 blah. So she goes to this like random parking garage that she's used to sleeping in, right? And she hears somebody like walking around, and she's not really sure what's going on. And then all of a sudden they grab her up and toss her in the back of the car. And there he is. There Adrian is, right? And he's like, hey, I have a proposition for you. You can go to prison, or you can come pretend to be my wife, my dead wife. I'm just gonna let that sit there for a second, because I was like, then he shows a picture of her, and they could be twins, right? So like he's saying like, oh, like a whole doppelganger situation, right? I do want on the record, I'm reserving the right to scream about the fact that she was a twin later on in this vlog, if it so happens. But right now we're just like going with the doppelganger-ish, like the doppelganger view, because like that's what Adrian's going with, right? So like he gives her an impossible decision. Like, you can become Leah, who's my wife, take up her persona, take up everything, take up, like become her, and come live in my fancy mansion and take care of our child, because like she's gonna be Leah now, so it's our child, and have 3 meals a day and a comfortable place to lay your head and all this kind of stuff, or go to prison. And you know what? I respect Winter for this, because she's like, I wouldn't make it in prison. Baby girl's like, I'm not gonna make it in prison. So yeah, sure, whatever, right? So, because it's an impossible choice. Either I'm going to prison for a crime I didn't commit, or I'm just going to be in prison in this dude's house, but comfortable, able to eat. She's not able to do that right now, all that kind of stuff, right? So they do a makeover, because obviously like she's dirty, grimy, doesn't have the same hair as his dead wife, right? So then he brings her to the house and she meets the kid, but the kid's mad at her because she left him, but she's like, I'm confused, like I didn't go anywhere. And then she's like, oh wait, right, I'm playing the part of Leah, who is his mom and obviously Adrian's wife, right? And so later on, like I really enjoy the relationship between her and the kid's name is Jeremy. I really enjoy the relationship between the two of them. I think it's really cute. I like really just love like their dynamic and like how much they enjoy like spending time together, and it's just adorable, okay? And they bond really quickly on, which is something that Adrian also remarks on, because he's like, oh, like I didn't have to interfere or anything like that. Like they just created this bond between each other. So, then like in his point of view, like what's really confusing to me right now is in his point of view, he's like, she's gonna pay for what she did, referring to Winter. But like, what did Winter do? She's been drinking away her sorrows on the streets, literally because she lost a child and she doesn't know how to cope with her life. So what did she do that was so horrific to you that you feel like you need to destroy her life, right? So question number 1, that's what I'm wondering. And then he's all like, oh, she must pay. Pay for what, my dude? Like the only thing that this book is doing is making me frustrated, because I don't understand number 1, what happened to the wife. Number 2, why Winter, aka Leah, has to pay for it. Like I'm just not getting it. And also too, Winter doesn't understand it either. And she's like, can you just like call me Winter, like when it's just the two of us, blah blah blah. Like I don't want to lose my identity. And this is really difficult for her, right? Like yeah, she made a decision, but at the same time, like she's giving up everything of herself in order to make this decision. So I completely understand like where she's coming from and like why she's upset about it. He's like, no, you're Leah. No, you're Leah. And like he absolutely refuses to call her Winter or even acknowledge the fact that she was a whole human before him, right? So that's neither here nor there. But Rina, what's going on? Why is he mad at her? And here's the thing. Here I am, 8 minutes into this, introducing this, having this conversation. I'm loving it, by the way. I'm loving the mafia aspects of it. You know that I love to be back in the nitty gritty of the mafia. You know I'm having the time of my life with that. I absolutely love the fact that like we're circling back around and everybody that we saw like in the Throne series, like we're seeing again. So absolutely loving that as well. But I need answers. I need to understand what's going on. Why are we angry? Why are we doing this? What's happening? Can somebody please explain that to me? And Rina's going to explain it because we're 67% of the way through, and there's a really good chance that we're going to say, you know what, F them kids, respectfully, we're staying up tonight to finish this book. But then the problem is, you know what she's going to do to me? It's going to be a cliffhanger. Because Rina loves a good cliffhanger. I mean, they're trilogies too. I should expect 2 cliffhangers. Anyways, so that's where we are. We're on the Deception trilogy. It is a wild time so far. I cannot tell you why Adrian hates her so much. I don't know. I haven't been able to guess it. And I bet you when it's unveiled, it's going to make me mad. It's going to make me mad. So, my dears, I am going to go take this makeup off. Oh, no, I have to go edit some videos. Anyways, I'm going to go edit some videos. Then we're going to finish this. And the next time you see me, we'll be on book 2. And maybe I'll have some more answers. I don't know. Oh, I didn't even mention it. She hates to want this man. She's like, he's my kidnapper and he won't even call me by my name. But like, oh man, she loves him and she loves their moments in bed. I mean, let me be clear, not judging. Do your thing, girl. Do your thing. That's all I'm going to say. Anyways, I'm going to go edit. I'm gonna go do things. I totally forgot I had this edition, and it's stunning, and I love it. And I'll catch you back here for a rousing update when I actually have one. So, catch you in a little bit. Okay. It's not funny, but I just watched the clip back to figure out where I'd stopped in talking about this book in the introduction. So I knew where to pick up off of, right? But like, I kind of watched myself rant a little about this book, like not in a bad way, but just in a like, oh, I need answers way, right? Like, it's not funny, but okay, so I am gonna have to admit, I try really hard to keep these like spoiler free. But it is a little bit more difficult to do when you have like the trilogies or the duets, because obviously what happens in the later books like depends on what happens in the first book, right? So I'm gonna put like across the screen right here just a spoiler tag, and I really probably only need about 30 seconds to spoil the cliffhanger of this book and to like have my moment before I start talking about the second book. But okay, so if you don't want the spoiler, go ahead and look in the description box, or just like slide down at the bottom to see like where the spoiler tag ends, because I don't know where it's gonna end, obviously, in the grand scheme of the video. But if you want to hear the spoilers, I'm gonna start talking about them in 3, 2, 1. Yo, it's been Leah the whole time. So she had like, I don't want to say like, I don't know if mental break is the right way to say it, but she had a moment, right? And she was going to switch. She like met her doppelganger, like I predicted that they had like met previously or whatever. And she took Winter's place and Winter took her place, right? But Adrian realized it like almost immediately and was like, so where's my wife, right? So he knew the entire time that Winter was actually Leah, which is why he refused to call her Winter, because she wasn't Winter. She just like was going through so much that she like essentially her brain like blocked everything out that was happening at the time and was like, no, and like assumed Winter's identity and thought that she was really this woman, when in actuality she was just Leah pretending to be Winter, not the other way around. So imagine my surprise when I read the ending of this book, and it was like I gasped as I'm thrust to the present. Do you remember now? Luca asked. That's his name, Luca, my partner in all of this. And I do remember. It's true. My name is Leah Volkov. Also, too, the Russian names are killing me in here, so the last names, like, I might butcher them. So anyways, solid 5 stars to Vow of Deception. Oh, okay, wait, hang on. Spoilers are over. This is for editing me. Spoilers are over. Solid 5 stars to this book, because obviously if you've gotten this far, then you've seen my previous rant in the beginning of this being like, Rina, we need answers. This isn't making sense. And you're right, like, it wasn't making sense when I was reading it, because I was like, there's no possible way that Rina decided to do what had to be done in order for her to pull this cliffhanger off, but she did it. She absolutely did it. And I am still just like, the cliffhanger took me out. Like, I was reading it like super late at night too, so I was just like, what? And the craziest part of the whole situation is I was really impressed by the cliffhanger. Like, let's be clear, super impressed by it. And really impressed with like what she was able to pull off, because I legitimately believed the lie, right? That Leah Linter was telling herself. I believed it 115%. So just imagine my surprise, you know what I mean? And that's all we're going to say about Vow of Deception, because I'm really scared I'm actually going to spoil it during the portion that doesn't have the spoiler tag on my face. So let's talk about the second book, which is also we're in my office / craft area. So I was trying to kind of find like new places in the house that I could film and it not be just like always the standard places. So yes, new location potentially unlocked here. So, Tempted by Deception. Number one, I'm just going to say it right now. I'm probably going to say what everybody else is also thinking. But the fact that she got rid of the male covers and now the only book covers you can buy are discreet covers are an actual travesty and complete disrespect to her male covers, because they are chef's kiss. And I didn't buy the Deception trilogy, and I didn't buy, oh my God, what's the next trilogy I'm reading? The Monster trilogy. I didn't buy those two, and I'm regretting it so much right now, because number one, these covers are, but also number two, this trilogy, this series so far with Adrian and Winterlia is literally overtaking me. So I am trying to think about so far all the couples that I've read that like who would like really be my favorite, and Ray and Kyle definitely rank up there. I have a soft spot for Gwyneth from the Empire series as well, and her main man. But really it has been like throughout all of this, because like the early books are very like NA, and I don't dislike the new adult aspect of it, and I didn't dislike the couples in the early like books. I just want to like go ahead and point that out. But there really is something about being thrust into the mafia world that is feeding every part of my soul right now. And I wasn't expecting Adrian to be somebody who was going to be one of my favorites, because anytime he was described is he's very like standoffish. He doesn't make friends very easily. He kind of does what like he wants to do, not necessarily what's for like the good of the whole, I think would be the best way to explain it. And I didn't think he was gonna be my favorite, but I am finding myself like somewhat obsessed with him. And it comes down to, right, because the second book, which is Tempted by Deception, which by the way, I also gave 5 stars. This throws us back into the past. So where did they first interact, right? Winterlia used to be a ballet dancer, and he was like, he's a partner in the company that she danced for. And she was always the principal dancer. Like, she's so talented. And that's where they met. And it kind of went on from there. Like, they had like chance encounters, and like, we know that there's a little bit more to it, that Adrian is scoping out for some information and things like that. But he very early on, like, makes a decision and realizes that he's obsessed with this woman. Like, he was like, oh, it's for a job. Oh, it's for a job. But like, even he couldn't lie to himself anymore about it. And he was like, it's so much more than a job now. And he cares deeply for her. And I really like their dynamic. Like, he's obviously a dominant. Like, there's no way, shape, or form where Adrian isn't a dominant. But she is a submissive, but in a sense that like, she's got to be a brat and she's got to argue first. And then it's okay, I see where we're going with this, right? So I appreciate the fact that like, she still really like retains her backbone, and she still tries to fight against what's happening around her, right? And what I think too, and this is gonna be a hot take, I think, not really a hot take, but a lot of people don't necessarily agree with it, because in books, people get really frustrated with the miscommunication trope. But if we were to be honest with ourselves and really honest with each other, the miscommunication trope is one of the most honest tropes in romance. It is, we literally miscommunicate with each other every day. We assume that people understand what we're trying to say. We assume people understand our feelings. We assume people understand. There's so much assuming and so little communication happening. So when the two of them started assuming how the other person felt, it just felt so real. Like, she cares for him deeply, but he just doesn't care for me. Well, did you ask him? Because so much of like what this couple went through, I feel like could have not all gone away, but a good portion of it probably could have gone away if they had just talked to each other, right? But let's be real, let's be honest with each other here. We're so quick to assume how people feel and assume what people think, that it is so realistic to see this couple and to see the two of them assuming how the other person feels, when really it's the exact opposite of that. Like, Adrian from the beginning has been obsessed with her. Now, whether or not he acknowledged it to himself or not, whole nother story, right? But it gets to a point probably, and this isn't a spoiler because they talk about the son in the first book, and two, like, we know they have a kid because if you've read Legacy of the Gods, I think both of their kids are actually featured in that series. So this is not a spoiler or surprise, but I really think for Adrian, things really started to shift for him when they had Jeremy, right? And Jeremy became such like a fixture and a focal point within their relationship. And he really started to see Winter, well, at that point, yeah, Leah, I'm just gonna start calling her Leah now. Really started to see Leah in a completely different light. And like that really, I don't want to say bolstered their relationship, but in a way, like it really gave depth and dynamic to their relationship, which is something that they sorely needed at the time, right? So I just think that it was just such an honest and raw way that they got together. And was he high-handed? Sure. Did he boss her around? Absolutely. But it was also very interesting to watch him go from strategist, nothing can be held against him, he, you know, all these things, to a person who had somebody that he cared deeply for, some bodies that he cared deeply for that could be used against him. So I also really liked, and I don't want to give away like the instances in, well, I can use the pregnancy. So there are a lot of things that they go through because like this is over a span of 6 years, right? So where we are right now is like very early on, but like there are time jumps in giving us information of their past, right? To get us caught up for where we are currently. But they've been together in total through this whole trilogy for about 6 to 7 years at this point, right? And in every major situation, Adrian has been there for her, cared for her, understood what she was trying to say when she wasn't even able to like articulate how she felt about things. And the care he gave her, even though she was really mad at him when Jeremy was born, like they were kind of beefing at that point, the absolute care and devotion that he showed Jeremy and her during that period of time is something that like I was just, I don't want to say in awe of, but it was just so beautiful to me. And I think it was something that at the time, and Leah agrees with this later on, that like, she definitely took advantage of, because you can say a lot of things about Adrian, you can say a lot of things about him as a person, but he cared so deeply for her and cared so deeply for her son. And he wasn't like an absentee mafia dad in any way, shape, or form. Like him and Jeremy have a really great relationship. So I just really so very much appreciated just how beautiful his care for them was in this portion of their story. But yeah, their miscommunication and their stubbornness definitely get in the way. And like we definitely see Leah start to struggle even more with mental health challenges. And you also see Adrian stepping in and trying to support her, but also like care for the entire situation, because at that point in time, like that includes Jeremy as well. So I just had like such a rich appreciation for him as a character, and for not necessarily what he took on, but like what a man. Like, and I say that as in like, it didn't matter that they weren't speaking to each other. It didn't matter that they were beefing, but he still stepped up, and he was still like, in his mind, like this is his duty, and like this is his wife, and this is his child. And it doesn't matter all the outside ancillary things, because like they're mine and I'm theirs. And it was just, I am so obsessed with this man. Like I did not have this, like when I was looking at all the characters, I did not have this, him being my favorite. I really didn't. But I did want to share some quotes, because you guys know that like I'm a quote girly. So, that doesn't make you gloomy. A rose shines brighter alone when it's in a field. So it's kind of a nod to, from like a mental health perspective, like what she's kind of going through and his viewpoint on that aspect of her. If I have to destroy the world and everything in it to keep them safe, so be it. There was like a threat to the family. And he was like, because what you're not going to do is come for my wife or my son. I fell in love with the devil despite his monstrous nature. And I think that was, and if I remember this correctly, like this was the very first time that she acknowledged how she truly felt about Adrian. And like really like thought about the fact that like, I love this man and he is the father of my child. And really made that connection with it. And it was like the very first time, like on page, or even as we listen to her as we read her monologue, that we see her acknowledge that. So This is a 5-star series, 5-star trilogy for me so far. I'm definitely consumed and obsessed with this series. I actually think that the next book is consumed by deception, which is ironic. So I'm really excited to get to that one, and I'll be back with an update. But there is going to be, because I've been kind of like tossing around like a series of ranking videos. So like ranking my favorite heroes, ranking my favorite heroines from like the Rinaverse, and doing like kind of like a whole series with that. And then ranking my favorite series and couples, and kind of like Long Live. So if you're a Taylor Swift fan, like Long Live's like the bee's knees, like the song. So like Adrian and Leah at this point in time would be like a long live couple for me, and he will absolutely be a long live hero because baby, the man that he is. Whew. So I'll be back soon with an update, because I'm pretty sure I'm about to binge the entirety of this next book, because I can't stop. Like, I want to stop and talk to you guys, but I also need answers, and I just like keep pressing the next button on the page to get to the next page. So I'll see you when I see you. Hey besties, another car update video, because, okay, so let's talk about it for a second. This is gonna go live in a couple days. So it will be pretty on like time with what's going on in the world, right? So today is the day after Onyx Storm has released. So it's Wednesday. And you're probably thinking, shouldn't you be at work right now? You're right. I should be at work right now. I'm not though. And I'm not at work because we have closed for our first official weather day that is not for a hurricane. And you're probably thinking, don't you live in Florida? I do live in Florida. And Pensacola just got hit with snow, which is only a couple of hours away from where I live. And we were projected to get snow last night. I can confirm that we did not get snow. I can confirm that we dropped like almost into the 10s, which in Florida, in the 10s, I have not seen it in the 70s in weeks now, which is absolutely crazy, right? But even crazier that we've taken like the first snow day that I've ever remembered taking in the history of like me going to school, and now me being like involved in, me being a teacher, right? So it's Wednesday, it's midday. I have a doctor's appointment. I just left one doctor's appointment, and I'm headed for another doctor's appointment because if you've been around, then you know I had surgery like 2 years ago. I didn't recover very well, and I've recently started working out, which is awesome, but I have aggravated all of the scar tissue. And so I'm going in to see the surgeon who did the surgery for me just to double check that everything's okay. So I was really worried there that I wasn't going to have enough time in between appointments. And now I have not too much time, but now I have just enough time to show up early for the next one, which the next one, I'm not going to say was the most important one, but was definitely the most important one. But you're also here for me to talk about Consumed by Deception, because I'm closing this vlog out because I have finished the Deception trilogy. And I'm going to tell you right now that Adrian is going to be so hard to beat. Okay. So I've already talked about this, and I'm not really going to talk too much about like the plot of what happens in the third book because it is a trilogy. I don't want to have to put another spoilers tag up, and to talk about the third book would be like spoiling the entire trilogy, right? So I'm really just going to give like high level how I felt about the vibes, I guess is the best way to say it. Right? And because Adrian in this series is the one who like is in the Brotherhood, has such a serious role in the Brotherhood, he's the strategist, right? So everybody looks to him to find the best strategy for whatever situation that they're in, right? And he is so good at his job. Like his intelligence level and his ability to outthink and outmaneuver certain situations is incredibly impressive. And that's something like I really like about him, because I like the fact that his intelligence is very much highlighted, because we all know he's attractive. We all know that, you know, he's built, that he has tattoos and he has muscle. Like we all know that he is incredibly attractive, but also for me, like that second layer of being attractive is your intelligence level, right? And the fact that Adrian is so smart is just, I mean, what's up? You know? And Consumed by Deception is a perfect title, but let's just focus on the consumed, right? Because they're both obsessed with each other, right? Leah is obsessed with him, he's obsessed with her, and I'm going to go back to what I said in the previous one. The miscommunication is so accurate for this couple, because when they finally sat down and just like had a conversation, granted, screaming match, but they still talked about it. When they finally had that conversation, I was like, thank you. Finally. Oh my God. Like, and they finally talked it out, and they're just like, wait a second, you've been in love with me this whole time? Because I've been in love with you. Yeah, like my feelings are just... So when they finally actually talked about it, it was okay. It was amazing. And I love them as a couple, because I think Leah's a perfect counterpart to Adrian, especially when we figure out the Winter Leah situation, especially when Leah comes into her own, especially when she really starts to like stop checking out mentally and everything. Because like, you know, we talked about like she struggles from a mental aspect, which I absolutely respect, and being a mafia wife is not easy. So finding herself in that situation like felt very overwhelming at first, but I really like to watch her grow into the role of being that support for Adrian. And I loved watching him go from being the person that had nothing he cared about, nobody to hold against him, absolutely like just untouchable, to this person who has people that he deeply cares for, right? Because at this point we have Jeremy and we have his wife. And in the third book, I think Rina did a really, really great job of bringing this couple together, because we all knew that it was going to be a situation of miscommunication. And it was going to be a situation of the two of them sitting here and like finally realizing like, oh shit, we've cared about each other this entire time. And we've both been trying to prevent heartbreak when we didn't need to do that. And I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to leave it at Consumed by Deception is a wonderful title for the last book, because I was consumed. Not by the deception, but I was consumed by this couple, and I was consumed by the way Rina wrote them, but also too, Adrian, the man that he is. I adore him. But there is just something about Adrian. I love a man who starts off closed off and nothing to live for, nothing to care about, who then goes on the other side of the spectrum of obsession and consumption and can't get enough of, and there's nothing you could do to my woman and to my child. There's just, that's such, Chef Kiss, such an amazing way to write a hero. I love heroes like that. So definitely Adrian is going to be my favorite. Now, and I probably will talk about this more in the Legacy of the Gods vlogs, but how do I pick I think I have to pick like first generation favorites, and then there have to be like second generation favorites. Like, cause Jeremy, his son, and spoiler, it's not really a spoiler because the book's out, I believe his daughter is also featured, Adrian's daughter is also featured in the Legacy of the Gods. So like Jeremy dethrones his dad as my favorite. I just really feel like I have first generation favorites and then I have second generation favorites. And like, that's probably how I'm going to rank it. Granted, I know she only wrote 6 books for the second generation, but I still feel like I can make an argument of the fact that like I enjoyed them, right? But I don't like them more than I like their dad, or I don't like them more than I like their mom. And I think that's fair, because anytime you write second generation, like I want more and I want the kids, and I'm never going to lie about that. But at the same time, I don't know how they dethrone their parents. I really don't, because like their parents are my first love. Like Adrian, he's my first love. Is there a chance that Jeremy might be a close second? Because if he's anything like his dad, like I'd probably find him attractive. Absolutely. But if Adrian's my first love, wouldn't it be weird to like his kid? Anyways, this is not where I thought I was going with the end of this vlog. This is a 5-star trilogy for me. Like I said, I'm on the hunt for the male covers now. And if there's any type of special edition for this, I will be acquiring it, because as of right now, I would say this is probably my absolute favorite trilogy so far in this backlist of Rina Kents. From beginning to end, obsessed, consumed, had to keep reading. I mean, I read these 3 books in like a day and a half, y'all. Like, if that doesn't tell you like my obsession, I don't know what would. So we've come to an end, and it's crazy because I went from not reading any Rina Kent to like absolutely binging the end of this backlist, and I'm loving it. I love a good binge, and I like being able to vlog as I go because I want everybody to know how I feel about these characters and how obsessed I am with them. So thank you so much for watching. If you're not already subscribed, I would love to have you as a channel bestie. If you haven't read the Deception trilogy, you can jump into any of her, like her duets or anything like that, her series at any time. I just wanted to do the experiment of what would my reading experience be like if I read her entire backlist in order like it was intended to be read. Next up, I'm actually going to stop this and then go ahead and film the intro for it, but I'm jumping into the Monster trilogy. So definitely excited about this one. We've gotten a hint of this hero, and actually he wants to be besties with Adrian, which I thought was hilarious. So I really kind of want to know more about him. So as always, thank you so much for watching. If you have a line on the second and third book for the male covers, holler at your girl, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye.